February 9 regular meeting of the Marin. Rupert, how are you feeling after your bike accident? Is that what you're telling Ford about?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because otherwise we shouldn't be talking, but if it's about your personal health, that's important. Go for it. The regular meeting of the Marin Telecommunications Agency. For those of you who were not here last time, I do want to welcome you to the year, and a very happy New Year to you all. And I want to welcome Carolyn Ford, who is our new and improved Jonathan Leone.
Thank you very much.
And Jonathan has assured us that you are completely up to speed and eager to jump in. And yes, he absolutely assured us of that. So we want to welcome you for joining us. It's always nice. You're not too late to the party, and we really do appreciate that you're stepping up to the plate.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, I guess, Suki, the traditional call to order.
Director Arnold, here. Director Levine,
Here.
Director Ford,
Here.
Director Chu, here. Chairman Berman,
Here.
Director Bragman,
Here.
Director Green,
Here.
and Director Russell.
Here.
Great, thank you, Suki. Okay, moving on to item B. Do we have any comments from directors?
My redevelopment agency's citizen advisory committee is meeting tonight down the street at El Davide, where my dinner is getting cold. It's a mushroom risotto that I had ordered. The food there is excellent, but I felt that it would be unfair to ask my alternate to attend in my place so that I could eat the dinner. Because I thought the Vice Mayor, Brockbank, would want to eat with them as well. That's what's going on with us tonight.
And I love Italian food, and risotto is one of my favorite dishes. Maybe you should, no, I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Take out at least.
Yeah.
You're not on to your normal politely look this way. Any other comments? Just by way of introduction for tonight, so Carolyn, we do have a work plan and we try to stick to it, and we have a subcommittee of the Finance and Policy Committee, which are 2 at-large members, the chair, and then the largest agencies, which are Novato and San Rafael. And we have been meeting on a regular basis, and you should get a copy of the work plan, because just by way of introduction, we've got a couple things on the agenda tonight that are right in line with the work plan that we really want to bring to a head and then conclude during the first quarter. So, and those are the 2 main items on there. That's all I'll say. Moving on to item C, then, Barbara, please. Love the haircut. I gotta say, it's fantastically stunning. Yeah.
New Year's new
Fantastic.
haircut. Thank you.
I tried that cut. I couldn't get it.
Wait till you see my next one. Okay. Let's see, just a couple of things. One is that per our DAP agreement, the Dedicated Access Provider Agreement, the CMCM was to give us 120 days notice with regards to their intent to extend the contract another 2 years. I did receive that, and I'll be bringing it to the March board meeting for board consideration. The other thing is I do want to welcome our new member, Carolyn, and Carolyn and I had an extensive telephone call, so she's all up to speed on MTA. Oh. I don't think I would put it that way.
Is that the binder? You brought the binder.
Yeah, I do.
That's very impressive.
It really is.
Mark left his at Il Davide.
So, and that's all I have to do.
Great, okay, thank you. And I think we do want to also, I want to thank Suki and Carla for all your help in getting tonight's agenda done too. Barbara obviously did an awful lot, but it was great, and it's wonderful having you very closely associated with the meeting process going forward. Okay.
Can I just ask a question, Barbara, if you could comment about any particular interesting developments as a result of the Comcast NBC merger? Because I remember you sent an email about that a few weeks ago.
Yes, yes. There are some benefits that may come out of that. I don't have any full details. You know, there were a couple of quick notes on that with regards to reduced rate, internet access, and those types of things, but I have not seen any further detail. I will get some information with them.
Okay, moving on to item D, which is our consent calendar, and unless there's questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
January
We have
12th.
a motion from Mr. Chu, a second from Mr. Green. Any discussion on the motion? Supervisor, are you discussing the motion over there?
Yes, I am, and
Okay.
we're not sure if we're going to vote for it.
I see, okay. Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries unanimously. She just wants a piece of the risotto. Okay, moving on to item E, which is open time for items not on the agenda. Is there anybody out there in the public that would like to speak up? Something not on the agenda, right?
As far as I know, from what I can read on the agenda.
Well, then you should come right up. If I look at you a little bit and say something like this or wind it down, that means, but generally, all we ask is that you state your name for the record.
Okay, Ginger Saunders Mason, and I'm a producer up here at CM2. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Wow.
Because I think this is the best thing that's happened in this community ever, because we're getting things out to the public. We've got a whole bunch of people that are coming in. It's growing, and it needs to continue. And
Right.
I'm just hoping that whatever you do here, you can help us here at CM2 continue and to continue to grow for the benefit of everyone in the community.
Thank you, that's fantastic. What was your name again?
Ginger Saunders Mason.
And Ginger, what town are you from?
Kenfield?
From Kentfield. So you, I mean, you know, that's wonderful for this board to hear, but go to your, you know what I mean, let the folks in your town and your town manager and all the folks just, you know, let
They're in
everybody.
the county. She's in the
Well,
county.
Yes, Ginger.
Go to the go to the board of supervisors and tell them too, because you know that's a big issue. You know what I mean? We can only do so much, and Judy does do a great job letting the board know, but that helps us as well too.
Now, the
So thank you.
financing for the future is important too. So
We-
however that works out, it would be great if we had some kind of stability for
Yeah.
going forward.
Yeah, well, that's basically the focus of the first quarter for this board, is to figure out how we get there. So thank you very much for your comments. Anybody else in the public want to say something? Yes, sir, come on up. State your name and your town would be helpful too.
My name is Michael Walpert. I live in San Rafael, and I'm a social media guy and a producer here. I spoke maybe a year ago.
Yeah, you look familiar.
Sorry, Norm.
Thank you.
And I mean, kind of echoing what was just said. This is, I'm sure you don't need to be told again how critical this is, but I spent a lot of time here, probably more than the executive director would appreciate, but I spent a lot of time here. I have a long background in broadcast media, and so I'm keenly aware of how broken that model is and how critical this is to the future of new media. And I'm engaged in every day, and it's critical. And there's a lot of people here that I think would help carry the flag if they knew what to do.
Yeah.
And the NBC Comcast merger does not bode well. I mean, there's a lot of caveats about how it's going to be okay, but if it bode well for the consumer, they wouldn't have done it. I mean, I finished my career at CBS and before that at Clear Channel, so I'm familiar with giant media corporations, and it's not really good. But here I watch people come alive as they realize that they can put on a show. I'm astounded at the number of people that walk up to me and say, hey, you're the guy on social media on Marin TV. My friends see it. I mean, this is just a little community radio, TV station, but it really makes a difference, makes an impact in this community. And it's so important. People are beginning to catch on and beginning to get more and more involved, and there's too many people that come in here and want to produce shows. So I appreciate everything you do, and if there's stuff that the producers could help out with, I'm sure that we would all, you know, we're all a little, not worried, but we're all looking down the road and want to make sure there's a road for us to continue on down. This could be a real pivotal part of community media across the country. It could be a real model for it. So, thanks.
Thank you very much.
And if I may comment, it's what you said about the Hey You thing. That's how I met Michael, because I can sit in my house and see who's tweeted near me. And I found out about him because he was one of the people tweeting near my neighborhood. And I met him when he spoke before us a year ago. And I thought, hey, you're the guy that I met, or saw on Twitter. It's a real story.
Yeah.
How many times you guys had dinner at El Davia together?
Oddly, I'm going there now.
Don't eat his risotto. And if you do, get him a hot plate. Okay, thank you. Anybody else in the public? Yes, sir. Come on up. State your name and town, please.
I'm Brad Flaherty. I live 3 blocks away from here. I walk here regularly, and one of the things that Michael has done for me is he actually interviewed one of my first managers when I first started working in Marin County after coming from Sonoma State. I worked at the Trident in Sausalito, and he interviewed my general manager on his show. And so what he exemplifies is how we are weaving a network of people that we thought we'd lost track of. That this offers a portal to communicate and reestablish communication on levels that I just can't believe are happening at such an incredible rate, thanks to the energy that this place is nourishing and cultivating and allowing to express itself in so many different medias that it's overwhelming at times. And I'm sorry if I'm exemplifying that overwhelming energy that this place has, but I do really appreciate your consideration and appreciation of what's here.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else from the public that wants to speak? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Paul Duchesne, I'm a community producer here. And
what town are you from?
Fairfax.
Fairfax.
Very Bragg News.
Look how your council.
That's my hero. He's my hero.
He's your hero.
This guy worked. This guy
in your campaign.
This guy worked assiduously to get this facility happening, while Comcast every step of the way was attempting to stop us. They were throwing bricks in the road. They still have for the past year, in fact, because the reason most of you can't look at the television and see what's on, that will change real soon. But all you saw was community broadcasting for 24 hours, right? It was hard to check it, was hard to see. Comcast was throwing bricks right in front of us, right and left, and it took us a year now. We finally got the code that we can input it to them, and we'll shortly, after a few $1,000s, I believe, be able to see what's going to be on when.
You're talking about on the
when you look at the
your menu screen.
Yeah, the program guide.
So when's that?
We're gonna be scrolling the programming.
Right, we're going to scroll the programs, we'll be able to look and you'll see
So when
the Norman Solomon show is going to be on. Right now you're looking at...
When's that happening though?
When these guys approve the $3,000 to pay the bill to do it. It's going to be real soon.
that's the CMCM board.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But echoing what the last fellow said in terms of this place being a real center, if anybody read David Brooks today in the New York Times, he talked about face-to-face communication. And you can sit there all day long doing Facebook and Twitter and everything, but a face-to-face is worth 1,000 Twitters. And coming into this place here and seeing this guy Garrity work on this social website that we're putting together, and the connections I make and everybody makes, is absolutely invaluable. And with what just happened recently, with the Department of Agriculture approving the planting of GMOs coast to coast on the alfalfa fields, within a year, the entire milk supply could be contaminated with GMOs. And not too many people are actually aware of the impact of what just happened a week or so ago. So this is our Cairo moment, and this is our meeting place right here. And if we can really fund this place so we're not worried, we can get a $65,000 should be coming down the pipe to us right off the top. If we get that, matching funds will come in right and left. So please.
Can you make a promise on matching funds?
I will. I'll go out and help you make them happen.
Is good?
His promise is good.
I will go out and help you make them happen.
All right, good. Thank you.
But don't count on me to raise them, though. I'll help you make them
that's
happen.
what my question was. That was my question.
I will help you make them happen.
That's the promise you made.
I will put in hours to help you make them happen.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
I promise that.
And congratulations on being somebody's hero. Very good. Okay, is there anybody else that is here from the public that wants to speak? And if you want to just echo the same things, you can just stand up and say I echo, but anything else? Michael, do you have anybody else lined up like that? Oh, perfect. Okay. All right, we're going to close the open time for items not on the agenda. Of course, that does not preclude. I had a little Brown Act session recently on one of my other JPAs, and you have to actually announce that that doesn't preclude comment on each agenda item as they come up. So I'm saying that for the record. I think that's supposed to be actually published in the, yeah, I actually think it's supposed to be published on the agenda now. Yeah. Somewhere inside of E, I think you actually have to now say in writing that this
I'll check
doesn't
with Craig.
include. Yeah.
Isn't it only if certain items that have public hearings?
I don't know, we were told, and Greg is drafting some language for Mill Valley, that you have to actually have it on the writing now, so folks know that they can speak for items not on the agenda, but they also know not included for items that are on the agenda. Go figure. Okay. Moving on to item F, very apropos coming off of all that we just heard. Michael, would you like to give us the Media Center oral report, please?
Just do some updates first.
Michael, step forward just a little bit.
This is his house, Norm. This is his house, Norm. He actually gets to stand where he wants.
So I want to thank our members for speaking up. There's hundreds more, just so you know.
Oh.
They all have something to say, too. So just some updates on programming scheduling. I put some things on your desk. A few things going on. We did a couple shoots recently. I think, we did the Heart of Marin Awards, and then also just recently we did the launch of One Book on Marin. So if you tune in this weekend, Channel 30, you can catch both of those. This is for the One Book on Marin. The Heart of Marin is on afterwards. And we just got the Dominican Leadership Lecture Series. They were very excited about the first season, so they just gave us a second, and that's actually started running already. We'll run down on that. So that's also running on 30. So, and we had a good.
That's a great one.
And Brad Van Nelson came, very excited. He's a communications professor there, very excited about creating all sorts of projects.
Yeah, and he called me again, and then emailed me again. I just kind of said I'd see it tonight, and we should talk a little bit afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah, so always put us in touch with folks like that. It was really great to meet him. And he's going back to build some buy-in at the university on some projects.
Well, they invited me there also to do a little tour, and so I'll help spread the Kool-Aid as well.
Okay. Yeah. I think there's a lot of interest now, and it takes time. It takes time, and we have to dedicate staff time for that. Also coming to the educational channel, Sam, our digital media manager, and his assistant Megan have been kind of hitting the pavement. So they actually went to visit the Media Academy at Somerville High, and have had a meeting here. And there's another meeting planned, and they're very excited about getting student programming on the air now. So that's going to lead to, I think, a whole lot of projects. And we also got all of the open media programs that Yale University has. These are entire college courses. They gave us permission to recablecast them, so we'll be launching those in the March quarter. So just a whole range of academic disciplines, full courses, 25 hours each course. So we'll be programming those on the educational channel. So there's a lot coming up. If you watch the community channel, there's always a lot on. We have, if you've been watching lately, we've been running Al Jazeera since the day we opened. A local resident requested it, so we run that along with Mosaic, which is a compendium of Middle Eastern news that's translated every day. And Al Jazeera is actually blacked out across the country. No cable or DBS systems will carry it. It's only carried on stations like, community channels like this. So the coverage was just absolutely stunning the last 2 weeks, over the revolution in Egypt. And we're also running a special this Friday and this Monday morning at 8:30. They did a compilation called Egypt Burning, and it's a special of all of their street coverage. It kind of documents the first 5 days. So that's worth checking out. And then on the wall here, you see an exhibit. They're actually from a video that the Marin Immigrant Rights Coalition did. And these are from a video that they just finished. And they were some of our first members. They worked on this video for the last year and a half. And they compiled a whole series of interviews with immigrants in the Canal area on why they come here. And it's a really compelling story. They've done 2 screenings already, one public screening in the canal, which was overflowing, and one a couple weeks ago at the Methodist Church up the road, also packed. They're doing a screening here on the 23rd. They've coupled it with an exhibit, and they also have they're putting together a teaching packet so it can be sent out and used in other places. So it's really quite extraordinary, and I think that's a good model of community media. It's media that's produced for a community and goes back into the community. And this was their first video, so they were very excited, I think, to finish it. Literally took a year and a half. It was a learning process, and there are many more projects planned now. So, sometimes things take a long time, and we sometimes forget that process is as important as what results from it, and that's really been quite extraordinary. So that's sort of it on the updates. I want to touch on a couple items on the agenda if I can.
You mean G and H?
Well, I don't have the agenda, but
yeah,
one is the INET cost and one is DIVCA.
Oh yeah, that's wait till we have the agenda item.
Yeah, so I should just
let's close your report. Are there any questions for Michael?
Oh, I should also say.
The INET was in our consent agenda.
Oh, that was in the consent agenda. Okay, that's right. That was already done already, Michael.
I think that's Mill Valley.
That is. That's Macaulay.
Oh.
Yeah. He looks really heavy in teeth. He's a big guy. So, I was just with him. I saw him yesterday.
And he'll get to hear your comments.
I know. Which will also be on the air. So
Were you just reelected, so you got 4 years to make it okay?
Yeah, I'm not that worried about it, but.
Actually, if you read the IJ this morning, there's a piece on Sommerfeld getting started.
Yeah.
They had a list of things to do and don't do. I think that was it done.
Yeah, what I just did? Yeah. I obviously have never played to the camera well.
So you guys are up and running.
Yeah, no, it's great.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very exciting.
Training.
John, you look fantastic.
We were training your new employee this week.
You want to correct the mistake that was in the IJ about the
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good point. The IJ throws around this $50,000 figure, which I think was probably a budget allocation that Sommerfeld set aside. And we're actually working on we have a production services contract, so we're installing the equipment, and they're paying us, on a monthly basis according to how long we're there and how long the meetings are. So, it's not a $50,000 one-year contract. It could, depending on the number of meetings and the length. I mean, we're hoping for more target meetings. It could be a lot of hours, or it could be not many.
This risotto's getting cold.
So we'll see how that goes. But it won't be anywhere close to that amount.
Yeah.
We haven't heard any pushback because of it. We're all pretty excited.
It's good, and this I think is a really good way to do it because we're installing basically the camera equipment, and we'll have the connectivity to bring a switcher there to do the production. When other nonprofits want to do a meeting there and have it covered, they can call us and we'll come do it.
I'll direct you to my city attorney about that.
Okay. Because I know that oftentimes the cities are afraid if they have this infrastructure, then everybody wants to use it, and they have to somehow find a way to administrate it.
Yeah.
In this case, it gets spun off to us, and we're happy to take on that role. So, okay, I'll be back.
So the INET stuff we already approved as part of the consent calendar. So is there something you really need to say about that, or is that?
Well, there's a couple ways to approach that.
It's done. So maybe you should.
Well, we're paying for it, is I think what I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but we're gonna give you the money.
Okay. Well,
So that's done. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe you should. Maybe.
Well, there's a couple.
You're
things.
ahead.
Yeah.
You're ahead. Bruce. Where's the little Bo Peep thing?
There's a little ripple to that. One is we had a cost sharing arrangement with, the youth center, actually with the Marin Foundation, which has actually worked pretty well. And INET is scalable, so we can scale the bandwidth up. That connection is there, it's working, it's fine. The other option, right now I have dark fiber in the very front of the building on the second floor. It has to get all the way to the back. the first floor. AT&T installed it, we didn't authorize it, they just managed to show up and get in and did it. It's going to cost a lot of money to get that connection back there, and I just hate to see money wasted when we have something that's already working. So it would be cost saving for you. I think it's good for us. The foundation is amicable toward it. You know, we might want to pursue that route first. You know, if we put in two different installations, we're paying twice as much money. So I'm trying to save you money.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's something to consider. You know, we've added, we only use the iNet for the city coverage at this point because we added a Comcast business connection because one, we needed redundancy. You know, there have been instances when the iNet has gone down and it just brings everything down here. And it helps us segment the traffic, and it's also really cheap. I mean, we're getting 3 times the speed for $100 a month. So that's actually worked really well for us, and it gives us, you know, the redundancy is really the most important part. So we're kind of covered on that. You know, we're keeping the cost down as low as we can on the iNet.
Okay, but I'm missing something here. So what do you want to do? Do you not want to have the connection through the iNet piece?
No, we share a connection now, and what I'm saying is that's the most cost-effective way to proceed.
Oh, okay, and not do the,
okay. Yeah, and to be honest, the landlady's not thrilled. She just put a roof on and waterproof the building and doesn't want to punch holes in it.
Well, if it's less than, or if it's less than or equal to what we just approved, there shouldn't be an issue there, right?
It's not going to be more.
Well,
why don't you take that offline with Barbara, and if there's an issue, bring it back to us, because it's already consent and done. That part, the iNet part, if you want to skin it a different way, talk to Barbara. And we can,
what we approved covers both.
Okay.
Yeah, if we save money, you can fund something else.
I'm just good thing I'm not opening up the public hearing because I'd get 6 people telling us why we should fund something else with that money. I know.
I'll be back later.
Thank you. Questions for Michael? Hold on.
Question. Before you sit down, have you spoken to the town manager in Ross yet about?
Oh yeah.
Media center applications.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, that's a very simple one, and I think San Anselmo's very the same. Very much like Sausalito. It's really just one camera. You know, here's a price on it to move forward. These are, you know, we're happy to help with it. There's really not much in it for us because it's a little minor bit of installation. One camera, maybe $5,000, but it'll get you up and running. It's mainly feeding your Granicus feed, you know, or whatever web hosting solution you have.
So it'll be something similar in Samsung?
Could be,
I can give an update on that. Just subsequent, Michael and I met with Ross. Michael looked at the whole configuration for the video aspect of it. Michael, I believe, has provided Ross with an estimate for the camera. In that part of it, I provided them information on Granicus. You had 2 of your council members meeting with the city manager, and they're looking at that. We're going to get back to you for further discussion.
Yeah, there were a couple additions to the audio. There isn't an audio system, which we recommend they consider, and then the projection system. We suggest an outside contractor. So that's in motion. And actually, kind of along those lines, I was in Santa Rosa this week, you know, to visit their access center. I've been up there for a while. And they just finished, actually a few months ago, they spent a year doing some software development to develop something like Granicus. It's
in-house?
Huh? In-house. Yeah, it's actually quite costly. You know,
I bet.
And it's still, you know, it still has a ways to go. I think I mentioned this about a year ago that a lot of people were working on the open source versions. So it was real exciting to see because it's actually very functional. It's something that clerks can use, and it, you know, pretty much has most of the same functionality. Not quite as pretty yet. You know, it needs a little bit more, you know, front end work. But you know, I think it's very close.
Okay.
So we're always following things like that.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, that was the Sonora report for the board here, so we're going to move on to item G, and Divka and Barbara staff report, please.
Yeah. Tonight's agenda item is to receive a current update regarding the Divka local franchise analysis. This is what we started talking about or identified we wanted to have on our work plan. back in October. In January, the Finance and Policy Committee met and discussed in more detail several of the key items that we thought came out of the memo that Greg Stepanisic wrote to the board with regards to DIFCA versus the local franchise, and have identified some of the pros and cons and those types of things, and we'll be pulling that together for the board when I bring it back to the board for consideration in March. The other update that there is we did receive the analysis that was done by Sue Buskey, who has been heavily involved with local access centers as well as very heavily involved with DIFCA when it was developed. She did the analysis for us on the franchise fees between DIFCA and the local franchise, and determined that there's really very, very minimal possible difference in franchise fee revenues. One would be about a $2,700 decrease depending on how the FCC user fees are handled. Another is a possibility of up to $16,500 increase a year depending on interpretation of gross revenues and PEG fee recovery elements, and that would need a legal review depending on which way that would go with Greg. So essentially, and that's on a $3 million a year franchise fee, so essentially the revenue impact is negligible or immaterial. Another item that the board and FNP had asked that we look into is to see if in any of the other areas in the state, a local franchise or franchisor had abrogated from the local franchise to DIFCA, the statewide franchise, prior to the end of their local franchise. The only one that I've been able to find thus far was Kern County, and I looked into that situation. They had had a technical analysis of their, at that time, current media center or government channel operations. That technical analysis said that their equipment and facility was extremely out of date, and that if they really needed new equipment. And so the Kern County Board of Supervisors, on the recommendation of their staff, abrogated from their local franchise with Bright House Networks and went to a statewide DIFCA contract in order to get the 1% PEG fee so they could purchase the capital, have the capital to be able to purchase equipment and facilities to improve their government channel, which they have operating on an ongoing basis, and it's run by their government staff.
So the only thing I'll add to that, so what we've done, Carolyn, I'll just sort of bring you up to speed a little bit, is at the end of last year, we decided that we would meet as a board every month during the year, but the full board would meet 3 times a year, and then on a quarterly basis, the Finance and Policy Committee would meet, with the goal of setting agendas and making sure we're keeping up with our work plan. We did it a little bit differently right at the beginning of the year because this was such an important issue of, and you heard it tonight, about how we, from in the last 18 months, and just looking at the last 2 years, but really the last 18 months, the world has changed so dramatically from how we thought the media center could continue to operate long term. And so this issue that you're reading about tonight sort of came to the forefront. So the Finance and Policy Committee did meet in January, and we'll still meet again in April. The things, and again, this is just by way of adding to Barbara's work, I think the 3 things that we still need to do is we did give direction for Mark and I to meet with Comcast, with staff, and we got to figure out the best way to do that, because they meet with Comcast on a monthly basis, and I would say I've met maybe twice a year with Comcast in an informal way, and so suddenly for Mark and I to, you know, pop into a monthly meeting is, we just got to think about how we're going to do that and how we're going to figure all that out, which is fine, but we want to sort of vet some of that. Then the process for thinking through this, and this has really come from the board too, because we, you know, you just got to sort of think about the next 12 months to, you know, 6 years, and that's what we're trying to do here. And for next month meeting, we will have, the Finance and Policy Committee members independently after that meeting gave Barbara some of their own pros and cons on this list. So we discussed that list. This is a public record. And then we gave Barbara our sort of our own pros and cons for each of these. And then that's what's getting pulled together for a recommendation. So I guess what I'd like to do is typical fashion is, are there any questions for Barbara? Because if not, then, I mean, if there are, let's ask those. Then let's open up the public hearing, take that, and then just bring it back to the board for some thoughts, concerns, discussions, and consideration. Because we're really trying to get everybody up to speed as best we can, so we can make a decision.
This isn't a hearing though, right? It's just.
No, it's not. No, just, and maybe, because remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us, you two, you're brand new. You two weren't there. And I know we've got, you know, Larry, why are you over there? You should have your son, by the way, there. Look at that. I pass that over here.
I know who I am.
Yeah, I know, but people are
You never know.
But people are confusing you and me. We both have, you know, different colored shirt, but same shirt, pants, you know, bald. I mean, we look alike. So I don't want to be confused with you.
Before it goes on TV.
Yeah.
No, so I mean, just to make sure that there's, you know, making sure you're in it, because we really do want everybody as educated as possible before that next meeting that we'd like to bring us up. So, any other questions for Barbara? Okay, seeing none, let's open up. Anybody from the public want to speak on this? Michael, how many people want to speak on this issue in the public? Bruce, Michael, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, Trish, whoever wants to go ahead.
Okay, I'll start briefly. Yeah, I mean, I've said this before, but I just want to stress the timeliness of this because, you know, as you know, we submitted our budget last January, and in February we actually were very firm that if we reached this point in January 2011 and still weren't operating under the franchise, we were in a very precarious position. And every month that goes by now puts us closer to that tipping point. Soon we'll be depleting the reserve funds that we've set aside. Every center like this has reserve funds. Ours was very small given the small nature of the original grant. But we've set that aside. The interest income from that is crucial going forward. When we start dipping into that, it's going to be very difficult to recover. And you know, even the 1% PEG fees are going to be, you know, about what we need to operate. So, you know, we just can't delay this much longer. And I appreciate you wanting to meet with Comcast. That's a great courtesy. Keep in mind, they never do that with the cities that they advocate to the state franchise for. I mean, this is their legal right. They don't meet with the cities. I'm not sure what could come out of that, but you know, if you want to do it, you know, that's fine. But we just need to really ensure that this moves quickly because we are sort of at that precipice that there's no going back.
Yep.
And we're at a point now where we're growing every day here, and you know, when I look at budgets now and I make decisions, I actually have to take 2 paths. It's like the budget I submitted to you in January. You know, there was one budget with certificate, one without. You know, and I'm thinking, well, do I need to buy that extended warranty? You know, it's really hard to do this, and it really becomes demoralizing for staff. This is where you start losing staff when they begin to see, well, I may not have a job here next year. I just lost one of my key staff, not because of this. She moved to another country. You know, and it was very hard for her to leave. She loved this job, but at the same time, I could not make a commitment to her that we'd be here in a year. You know, she would have that job. So, you know, we really need to move forward on this. We want to keep growing, we don't want to shrink.
Yep. Thank you, Michael. Trish?
I'm speaking for the board, I guess, as a member of the board for 3 years here. And we've spent a lot of time, spent a lot of effort to get where we are today with the staff and Michael. I think we've come a long way. We've got a great facility, got wonderful programming, more programming coming on all the time. And I would like to see the MTA take a leadership in this position, not drag their feet, become partners with us and say, we're going to make this happen. The staff wants it, the board wants it, you had recommendations that it's an important thing to do and we should do it now. Let's have the MTA instead of the bureaucratic whatever. I know we need to go through a process. The process is important to do. But I'd like to see the MTA really get ahead of this issue and get behind it. Because I can speak for myself on the board, this is getting really tiresome. Let us get going. Amen and be well. So I'd like to see March be the end of it, that you come to come to think and move it forward and get it on the track. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce?
Bruce Bagnoli, San Rafael. Partly for the new member, I just wanted to mention that we are a contractor to the MTA, and we are the group that's performing a custodial service in a way for the public, because the public has a right to public access. It's in federal law, and it's part of the MTA's mission, and we are carrying it out to the very best of our ability. I'm the board chair, by the way. And one of the things that we have a great crew, we have a great group of people doing this here, and we think we're delivering tremendous value to the community. And I know there's a lot of board members who are very supportive of the idea of converting to DIVCA. It's something that Comcast could have anticipated when the law was written. I'm sure it will not be a surprise to them. It's something that any lawyer who reads the thing could see. It's an automatic conversion. It can happen at any time by either party. The preconditions are in place. In other words, there's already a state franchise for AT&T. The only difference is that Comcast has a pre-existing franchise. So the conversion to this other one is something that could be anticipated. It's a relatively minor cost. On my personal bill, it will be less than 1%. It will be 1% of the part that's taxed, so to speak. But I have other tiers, so there's other parts of my bill that won't be affected. For example, internet is not part of this. And that's something that not everybody understands. The MTA doesn't have any power to regulate the internet at this time. And so just to kind of let you know that we're here, and we'd like to meet with any individual who has on the MTA board who has questions about this. We're happy to meet with any constituents that you may have that may have questions, to either let them know about what the value is here, or let them know, let anybody know kind of what the dynamics are and what the background is. So we think that we're actually the lowest cost provider, and that for the MTA to miss this opportunity would ultimately result in either a lot of cost that's unnecessary here to keep something going, to keep this function happening, or degradation in the investment, because there's a $3.5 million investment here that was given as a grant as part of the franchise, because the franchise is a trade for the use of the right-of-way through the cities. You have encroachment permits. If somebody wants to put a new fiber through your city, they have to pay you for that, and that's what generates it. So it's a very basic service. It's a basic situation, and we believe that this is in the best interest of the public and county government and the people here, and we think the value is something that is easy to preserve. So we hope you'll make what we think is the right decision to keep this going. And certainly I'm available to any of you who have questions, and all of our other board members would be happy to speak with you. And we'll be asking to speak with some of you individually, because there have been some questions raised. Others seem to be up to speed and don't have questions, so that's fine too. So feel free to ask us any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Go ahead, anybody.
I'll just take another quick 30 seconds. Again, my name's Michael Walter from San Rafael. And I'm not nearly as deep in as everybody else is in the management and the finances, but I just really implore you guys to realize how critical this is. If this studio is ceased to exist, this is a living organism almost. So people come together in the community. You just see a little teeny sliver of who's involved in this. But this, I really feel so strongly that this is one of the candles of freedom in our media world now, as that all changes. And I come from that side. People think that the news is really the news, and I have no interest in getting in a rant on corporate control of the media, but it does exist. The media is, the independent newspapers are shrinking and failing, and the giant media corporations are rising. It's a great business. I enjoyed the profits from it. But this gives real people a chance to tell a real story. And it's so important to keep that funded. And everything's important to keep funded, and I know that. But this is really, 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 you just see a little bit of the people that are involved here. I'm in here a couple times a week, and there's people that are excited and involved, more and more involved in their community than they ever would have been, and it's a growing voice, and it's just so critical. It's been so long in the making. To lose it, I don't know that it could ever be put back together again. So I appreciate everything that you do, and I just want to kind of share the voices of all the people that aren't here. Thanks.
Jeanette.
I'll be brief.
Sure.
Right, she'll be brief. I will take your advice, and I echo what everybody. Oh, Jeanette Gittler. Oh, yeah. You know, I spent 25 years in television, and that said, you know, like Michael, this is really a unique thing that you have built. You created this, but I've got to tell you, I'm begging you. I really am. I've had it. I mean, it's really I think Michael said it better than any of us. Just look at the numbers. We start to deplete what we need to continue with, and we need operating. And that, as chair of the Outreach and Development Committee, we're glad we're doing the outreach. I'm very uncomfortable, and I've said this before, asking people to contribute their money if I don't know for sure that we have a future. And until DFCA moves forward and is resolved, we do not have a future. So as a founding board member and somebody who has put a lot of time and effort and passion into this community media center, and it's been a team effort. I mean, you're lucky. We've got a great board of people who they're professionals. These are not, you know, I had heard stories about what it was like at Comcast, and, you know, I had been in the city as a television executive in commercial and public television. This is my first time, and I love every minute of it, taking that expertise and utilizing it within my own community. I've always lived in Marin. And as I think you probably already know, I'm just continually reviewing what I know, and I may not be completely knowledgeable, to be the facts. And I'm having a very difficult time understanding why we're dragging our feet. It's my understanding that the evaluation Subusky did recommended we move forward. You know that Michael, as executive director and the person that is dealing with this on a day-to-day basis, says we need to move forward. If we don't have enough confidence in him, if we don't think he's done a good enough job up until now, then that should change. But we will cease to exist if we don't move forward. And it's my understanding in 2016, it's inevitable. It's gonna happen anyway, whether you make the decision or not, but then it will be absolutely too late and we will be gone. So I am begging, because I can't do it anymore. I'm a kind of Action Jackson kind of a person. And when I feel, especially as chair of the Outreach and Development Committee, that I can't do what I'm supposed to be doing because I cannot make a commitment that we will be here. So I thank you very much for setting this up, for creating the opportunity. I am incredibly frustrated over how long it has taken to make this decision when, from my perspective, it's inevitable. And so then I think to myself, what can it be? Well, I understand. As elected, okay, you want me to stop?
We got more, I mean,
fine,
we
it's
get
fine,
your
I've
point.
said enough,
No,
I've said enough,
yeah.
you do have my point.
Yeah, very loud and clear. Thank you very much. Next.
Hi, Brad Flaherty, Centerfell. It's so great to see people who are working with new creative currency here and understand that, that like Andrew mentioned, financial perspectives have changed in 18 months so great that money as we know it is turning to straw, and this is the place that turns it to gold. This is the mill. And I've become a much better member of Marin Center for Independent Living, a much better member of Healthcare for All because of my access to this equipment to get out there and document their meetings and their events. I've been at the Redwoods, I've been at Dominican College, I've seen and talked to incredible personalities here that are connected with the community, that are developing a generator of energy that is going to break through the forces that are trying to crush us and trying to limit us. And I think that if you take a chance, you'll find that the harvest of what you are willing to plan is going to be quite nourishing and beneficial.
Great,
Thank you.
very much. Anybody else in the public want to speak on this item? Okay, see,
Go
ahead.
I'll get one more minute here. The actual budget, the operating budget, just to put it into perspective,
You know we've seen the media center's budgets, so this is, just so you, I
is
don't.
1%, is 1/10 of 1% of the salary that was, that the head of Comcast just got after completing the merger. 1/10 of 1% of the salary that this man got for completing this giant media merger. Our democracy is literally slipping through our fingers right now and is dependent on a free press, which is written into the Constitution, very high up there. To allow Fox News to appear in airports around this country and spew lies night after night that are disputed, and to say Fox News in the corner is outrageous. If I were on this board, I would want to get in front of the curve, get the money into this organization here, get rid of this insecurity, and secure our right to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else want to speak?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Doug.
Hi, my name's Joe Quinn, and
What town are you from?
I'm from Ridgewood.
Okay.
And I'm a retired disabled firefighter who had 2 brain surgeries, and come in here, and this place has just been so awesome to take the time to allow me to become part of expressing my voice to the community. And I have interest in alternative healthcare, including Tai Chi and Qigong, a not manual method, things that can really help the public. And I'm right in the process of being able to share them with the rest of the community, because these guys have taken the time and given me a place that I could learn how to do this. And I'm just really impressed with the place. And I'd like to say that this is a really worthwhile place.
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Next, please.
I'm Flor Emer, and I'm a member of the board.
What town are you from?
Marin,
Okay.
So I've been a member of the board for this is my 2nd term. I am the vice chair. And thank you very much for being here. Thank you. I know that we all have families and we're very busy, and this extra time that we have to devote to doing what we need to do in order to support the community. So it's very, very important that we have your support. This center has given me a lot of satisfaction because I can approach the community, the diverse community. I have been able to work here and create TV programs, educational in Vietnamese, in Spanish, and this is a real asset for our community, especially the diverse community, Latino community, Vietnamese, Portuguese, etc. So please support us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your service on the board as well, too. Okay, anybody else in the public want to speak on this issue? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for any questions or discussion, anything you want. Supervisor.
The question is, when do we have a timetable for when we are going to make the decision on DIFCA?
Well, the March meeting,
March.
So the March meeting will have the rest of this fact-finding done, a staff report with a recommendation along the lines of what we discussed in the public session in January, the Finance and Policy Committee.
Yeah,
and I think Mark and I had agreed to review that report almost as a subcommittee of the Finance and Policy Committee. So that's the process, and there'll be a recommendation, and there'll be a memo that highlights pros, I would say, pluses and minuses, pros and cons from what, we have a memo here tonight that shares things that'll change and things that won't change. And at that meeting, as you know, because we appreciated your participation, we discussed, okay, the things that don't change, fine. The things that are going to change, how do we weigh those? And so we're going to parse that out, put some pros and cons around it, and put a recommendation forth. Right, did I get that right? That it was Mark and I that were going to help draft it. So I'm hoping it's March.
Right. Okay.
Now, we all know if we make whatever decision is March, you know, things don't happen overnight, but we will move expeditiously. No, thank you. Good. Other questions or comments? Mark, please.
Yeah, I mean, if we are voting on this in March, what type of outreach will we be doing to the public to let them know about the proposed rate increase that we would be approving if that's the way that the recommendation goes, to make sure that they're aware of it before we actually pass that vote and have an opportunity to weigh in? How do we do that?
You know, I haven't thought that through fully, and that should be included in the report in March. But we can get things out in the, through the city managers, in their newsletters. We can get things out through the newspapers like the IJ and those types of things that we're going to be having the public hearing. And I think those would be two main things, through the media center, you know, various email lists that are government related, educational related.
Well, and I think the other thing that would help is to get our packet out really early, and along with the pros and cons analysis, we had talked about maybe if we could put, it doesn't have to be 50, but even if we had, you know, 5 or 6 frequently asked questions along the lines of, what is it we're thinking of doing? Why would we be doing it? What is our current agreement with Comcast? What does it mean to go to a DIVCA franchise? And what, you know, and what does that mean to you, the consumer? Well, the biggest thing that or one of the biggest thing, maybe the biggest thing, is there's going to be a change on your bill. Some folks like Bruce say he doesn't care; it's de minimis for him. I think we heard from, you know, some of us saying,
we'll hear this next month, man.
Yeah. So okay. But that's So that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Too.
A couple of other points. We might want to move to a larger chamber for that type of a meeting.
Yeah.
I think
back to your place.
Yeah, my place. I think the cameras may be live and ready to go. So that would be. I might know more about whether I know we're missing some equipment.
You're talking about a weekend too.
Yeah, is that right? Yeah, we're missing some equipment on to attach the cameras to the ceilings right now, but we'll get there. I think it would be really helpful for you, because I bet you're going to be making a presentation and speaking, to paint in broad brushstrokes how the money will be used. I think that's going to be critical to really demonstrate how those fees, when they're collected, are going to be utilized. I love the passionate pleas that I'm hearing tonight, but I think that people who will have a problem with a 1% rate increase will want to look beyond the passion and see the data and understand that.
You know that it's less than $1. Come on.
Well, look, see, we all love the passion. This isn't the audience that I'm concerned about. So you might, you know, hearing your passion is great, and I appreciate it. Other people who might not be so happy with the decision that we all have to live with afterwards may appreciate hearing the community impacts in a different language than the passion that energizes us so much, that enriches our community so much. So please prepare for that type of a presentation, in addition to the wonderful passion that you bring to all of our meetings. Okay, that would be really helpful. And I think that the other thing that I'm a little concerned about is we're going to benefit from this extra $3 million over 5 years, but then after the expiration of the original PEG franchise, as we pay it back, the money will go down. So really explaining how that money has kind of already been spent, so to speak, and you're not going to deal with a budget cut, so to speak, in 5 years, and how you're going to deal with the fact that suddenly you've got less money 5 years from now, and you don't fall off a cliff later on. I think that might be helpful as well. Yeah,
the current fee that's on the bill is a recovery.
Yeah, exactly. It's already been paid.
So we're not receiving income from that.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, for other people that don't know this, that we might want to educate people about how that money was recovered up front, but that it's being paid back to Comcast to create the wonderful place that we have right here. Yeah, Michael, do you want to make another comment?
Well, yeah, they'll actually see a drop in cable prices, which is not something you can overstate or no.
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, what I'm trying to do is just give you some feedback here in this open meeting, that not only helps us make a decision, but helps other people in the community that might scream about government collecting more money just because government can, without understanding what the actual community impacts are. And so if you help us build that case, then it'll be much easier for us to make that case for you next month.
Could I add something from the board? Sure. Just to respond to your point, it's very important to us to operate in a transparent manner. We are a nonprofit 501c3. Our tax returns are public. Our reports are public. Our budget is public. So we are accountable for what happens here, and we're happy to be that way. So there is no mystery about where the money goes. Not the slightest bit of mystery about where the money goes or what it's spent on. And I think our passionate person who brought up free speech, I'm passionate about free speech as well, but I won't go into it now. Your point about being accountable is well taken. It's something that every member of the board takes seriously, and certainly the way we operate is in the open, and that's part of the public trust that we take very seriously. So I also take seriously your suggestion that we be prepared to discuss those other points. I think those are good ones, and we'll be happy to address those at the next meeting. And also, if you have other questions that you'd like to bring up, we'd be happy to meet with you. If you have suggestions about how we could communicate better, we'd be happy to do that as well.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I want to make sure, and well, I'm sure you'll get a chance to speak, but I was not questioning as far as accountability whether there was transparency here. I think that people might have a concern as to why is the budget $3 million? What will $3 million help us to achieve? And if there's a way to quantify it to people who might question the wisdom of doing this, that will help us because we understand what we're empowering CMCM to do and how we're opening up government and information and providing a voice and a venue for so much more than we're getting right now on cable television. That people will understand it's not just $3 million, it's understanding how that money is going to be perhaps spent, even though we haven't approved those budgets, but just in those broad brushstrokes, as I mentioned.
Right, well, we're happy to do that, and we certainly want the public to understand how the money is used, and that is one of the communications tasks that we have, and that we have been doing.
But I would also like to add that if there are 3 people in this community that even will notice it, I will be surprised, okay? For starters. So we're making a big deal out of a very small thing. And the other thing I might add is, Mark, is that I think that we can give you the information, but I think it's up to the MTA to carry the flag and show the leadership position. It's up to them. We will give you the information, and we will be out there. But I look to the MTA to be ahead of the curve on this and to deal with the public on those issues.
Well, that's fine.
So yes, we will give you the information, but I'd like to see it be a partnership, and I would like to see you all out front and say, this is important to the community, this is why we're doing it, and this is the reasons why we're doing it. And if you don't believe in us, I'll resign from the board tomorrow. You know, bye. So that's.
Yeah, that's bad. Okay. Thank you. No, excellent, excellent. Judy, anything else? I'm just going to go down the row here and any comment. Excellent, excellent. Carolyn, not to put you on the spot. You're still learning.
Yes.
Okay, soak it all in, prepare for March. And if you have any questions, we should. Has Carolyn gotten all Greg? Does the binder have Greg's memos and anything else that we've done on this?
No, it doesn't.
The public stuff.
I'll give her all of that stuff.
Yeah.
We talked about it extensively. Yeah. But I'll get her the paperwork.
Yeah, that would be helpful, and then we could talk. Larry.
Yeah, I have several comments. I'd like to follow up on Mark, and also end it with a question for Barbara. Being probably someone who's more the enigma on this board, I sound like I support it, but when I talk about it, I don't. All I want to do is raise the critical issues in terms of what we're dealing with here.
You speak up.
Yeah, I don't think the issue is about public access. If we want to sell this to the community, we've got to focus more on the education and the government portion. Okay, we all know what you do. You're passionate about it. I supported that operation when I was with 4 different other organizations for about 15 years. So I know what you guys do. Okay, but the but there is that there's a big sensitivity to fees and taxes right now. Someone sees a 1% increase and they don't care that it's de minimis. It's been pointed out already, I won't go through that. But what we need to be able to show is that that 1% will provide each of our communities with the ability to provide a venue in which all our meetings are publicly televised. And that has value because I know from our community standpoint, what we're trying to do is to make our meetings more available so that somebody does not have to come down and actually be there to see what's going on within their city. And I believe that's why a lot of everybody else at this table, you know, their cities are doing the same thing. If we could focus as much also on the educational portion, then you're starting to bring in a much wider audience that way. So that, I believe, is the sweet spot to sell in the community. The one big thing that some people have the perception that they will lose is the possibility of a service center. Personally, I don't think Comcast will shut it down. But if they do, how many people actually go there? You know, there are people that go there, but there's so much now where they just send it to you in the mail, you install it yourself, you can't do it, you call someone, they send a consultant out. So that becomes a non-issue, but it's an education process that, you know, we're gonna rely on our staff to actually be able to communicate, you know, to the general public when these issues come up, and we should be doing that on a preemptive basis. The last thing is that, you know, I don't want to stir up feelings here with this, but, you know, as I look at the PEG budget, one of the things we said at the very beginning was that PEG's got to be self-funded. Okay, so in order for that to occur, we knew that a lot of money would have to come out from grants and other donations. One of the things that I believe the CMCM is going to need to do is that they need to devise a way to get a broader reach within the community. Because when you look at a $387,000 projected operating budget, but only $10,000 of that is coming from donations and grants, that really doesn't show the general community that you're out there making an attempt to raise that money yourself. You know, that's the effort that has to come from the other side, because like any venture capital operation, you want to see how much skin you have in the game and how much blood you're putting into it. Okay, so that's all I'm going to comment on there. But for Barbara, I keep asking the question, what does Comcast have in this? Why would they even object? Because if they're going to be reimbursed for their PEG fees, and they don't have to run a service center, and they don't have to do the line extensions, and a number of other things they won't have to do, why would they possibly? Well, I'm trying to figure out how are we going to get objections from them so that we can address it immediately without having any negotiations drag out.
I don't expect that Comcast will object. You know, they have statewide franchises through many, many communities throughout California. When franchises expire, local franchises, Comcast, you know, they go to the statewide franchise without really issues. So I think our discussion with them is to quantify perhaps a couple of things like the service center or a couple other items, but I don't expect that they will object, and I'm not seeing that much difference or any difference really between what we have now and what we are most likely to have with Comcast if we go statewide. And the reason I say that is we already have a very small franchise, unincorporated Novato, that has gone to DIFCA. I haven't seen any difference in the way that they work with us in that area. The city of Novato has also gone to DIFCA because their contract expired or the franchise expired. And there's really, they're not seeing a difference there either.
Yeah, the Comcast piece was not so much that we thought they would object, but it was how much would we, the analysis was how much would we be losing and how much would they, it's sort of where we got to. What might we lose as a result of that, and what might they, how much would they enforce?
Right.
So,
and with the FM, like they now have deployed that throughout the entire Bay Area. We were the first that really yelled and screamed, but then they saw that there was advantage in it for them, and so they deployed it throughout the Bay Area. So if we were to go to DIFCA, I don't think that's at risk per
particularly for Marin, because they've seen it as a business gain for them.
So in concept, it probably should be pretty easy for them to say, okay, we're fine with it.
Yes, that's what I'm expecting.
Larry?
I'm just going to try to give a couple of perspectives because I'm the old man on the board now. I've been on the MTA for 8 years, and so I've been part of the process really that gave birth to the Media Center, and it was a very difficult birth. It took 3 years to negotiate. And one of the reasons it took so long to negotiate is that we dragged our heels on getting a community needs assessment. Once we invested our money into getting a community needs assessment, Comcast moved forward and we ended up getting $3.5 million in cash grants up front as part of that negotiation. And it was that money, $2.5 million of that money, is what is funding the facility that we're sitting in. So our agency has already committed to community media in all its forms. And I agree with Larry's comments that it's not just community media, it's education, it's government, it's disaster preparedness. It's a media culture. And if we don't help give birth to that, we're failing our community, because in order to make our community join and grow, we need to give our community a voice. And that's what the Media Center is doing. It's giving our community a voice and the tools to be heard. And if we don't water the tree that we've planted, it's going to die. And that would be sad, and that would be abandonment of our mission and what we've already committed to. So I not only see us moving towards it as inevitable, because it is inevitable. It's going to happen in 5 years. The question is, can we afford to let this facility that we planted the seed wither and die because of the perception that we'll be criticized? We have to have the courage of our convictions and the confidence of our convictions to move forward. And I saw it when we got the community needs assessment, when we brought in the community and we articulated the needs of the community, and now this facility is the embodiment of that. And DIVCA it's really the next step. And we're going there, whether we want to or not. And I know it's taking too long for the public, but I've seen the different configurations. I've seen the different faces come and go on our board. And it's difficult to grasp everything. It's a big thing, it's a big basket to get your arms around. But I know the future is DIVCA. And I think we owe it to the community to have the confidence to invest in the community. And that's what we're doing. And there's going to be a few stumbling blocks. I mean, one of the main ones, in my opinion, is the low-income discount, the disabled discount. Well, we may have a plan in place to replicate that so we don't lose the benefit under the franchise agreement for those subscribers that have that need, that are cut out because of financial or disabilities. So, we just, if we have to focus in the next 2 months to get through this. And I know that if we do that, if you give it what it deserves, that you will come to the right decision. And the right decision is to move our franchise forward and to invest the money that's there. It's such a small amount of money for subscribers who are already paying parts of their bill to media ventures that they don't even understand and that they get no benefit from. They will see the benefit of this. They will see the return on their investment. And that will, you know, our vision will be delivered. And I think, you know, we've just got to move that way, so.
Right, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. You should just replay that for March, because that'll be. We don't have to hear from you in March. I think you know how you're going to come out.
That's my opening statement.
That was his March stuff.
That's not my close.
Okay. The evidence will show. Ford?
Yeah. Yes. I'm still trying to get my arm around the sizable basket. So
yeah.
What I'd like to do is ask some questions and try to frame the issue so I make sure my understanding is clear. As I understand, what we're dealing with now is the funding of the media center. And the way it works now, the funding flows through the franchise agreement that was negotiated that Larry referenced. And what the proposition is changing the source of that funding from the franchise agreement to DFCA. That much I think I've got right. Is that accurate or not?
Well, I mean, the funding came through the franchise agreement. It was front-loaded money up front that gets recouped on the back end from Comcast. What we're looking at now is how do you keep the media center operating going forward with additional sources of funding when, you know, grants, fee-for-service, donations, DFCA, you know, these were all different elements of how this thing would get funded going forward. I think part of the frustration that you hear sometimes in the board, I don't want to speak out of turn, but we kind of all went back to our councils and sold this one way, knowing DFCA wasn't the law yet, so this wasn't even a funding source yet.
Okay.
And so we sold this to our councils and said, support all this and put a big fat MBA hadn't existed yet. So this was one of the JPAs with a big fat operating budget. We paid an executive director too. We sold this to our councils one way, and you know, almost overnight, all these funding sources seem to have dried up, and now we've got something else that's sitting here. So we're looking at ways, it's a funding, I think of it as a funding source, but not a shift. It's a shift only because the money was front-loaded at one point. We've got ourselves, it was like seed money or startup money that gets recouped by Comcast on the back end. Now we've got another way of getting that money.
So then, my next
getting more money, getting funding from some of these other sources run out.
So what my next question is, if we didn't go the DFCA route, is the media center dependent upon MTA for its operating capital? It sounds like it is, or are you saying that it was front-loaded at $3.5 million and that's a one-shot deal and that's what they're trying to survive on?
That's a one-shot deal. You can go back and look. Hold on a second, Michael. I'm not sure I want to keep on opening up the public hearing because we're not going to get through this. But I think of it as upfront money that does get recouped, that has a certain burn rate attached to it that probably keeps that thing alive under your last budget for another year. And then it's gone. So then after that year is gone, they either look to us, they look to DFCA, you know, maybe they get grants, maybe they get fees for services, but yeah, or potentially I think what you're hearing tonight, this thing just dies because none of that other stuff's coming through.
Okay, so then would it be correct to say...
And by the way, it crumbles apart because everyone sees that they're running out of money in a year. It's like any other startup, and it's about the time people start their own shit.
So one of the primary issues is that there is not an ongoing source of funding yet. And that's the rub, that's the sweat.
Correct.
Okay.
Startup.
All right.
Yeah.
And so then, based on what you're saying, and the insecurity that I think I perceive with respect to the proposed transition to DFCA, there are two elements. One is it's a change in what the follow-through is a change in the original sales job that you referenced, where the members went back to their councils and this was the program, and now it's going to be a different program. But the rub so far as elected officials is concerned is the 1% increase that it's going to cost on the bill. That's
well, I think what we got at the finance and policy, I'll let Mark and Larry, I mean, that was one of the rubs. I mean, we discussed all these things.
Right, so that's
the sort of the memo that's in here was things that don't change and things that do change, and then we all kind of discussed, well, how important are the things that are changing?
What the balances are.
Yeah.
Right, and so then another piece of it is what's referenced as the side agreements to the franchise agreement. Right. FM, low income support, being two of them.
Well, low income got phased out anyway.
Well, Comcast is not renewing, so right. it's dying based on attrition. Yeah.
Right. But I wouldn't necessarily mix low income discount with the survivorship or not of the CMCM. That's a separate issue. You could have that die.
That's a board issue.
Low income discount that survives, or we could have that survive and this could survive. Yeah. That's our next agenda.
So just I'm trying to get my arms around the overall basket. So then, in addition to...
but you're right, and that's what the analysis was in January, was there's some things in the agreement that we just might, or in the side letter that we just might lose. No, right. I don't think, like Barbara said, I don't think folks at work Comcast will do this, because, okay, so we're just going to recoup the money anyway in the back end, but then we were sort of thinking about what else do we lose, or how does this look when we go back to our constituents and say, now we're going to, now all the residents in town are going to get a different bill, or to Larry's point, they might not have a service center or whatever. Pick your issue.
Okay, so I think I've got a better grasp now. So
you got a great grasp.
The insecurity that's expressed by the media center advocates is they really don't know whether there's going to be a source of funding in the future or not, and they've built this obviously magnificent operation and don't want to see it go in the toilet.
Yeah, so I'd think of it like any other startup. This is our thing too, by the way.
So,
I mean, and this is our, and what Larry's point was, this is actually ours. It's not just. I mean,
no, I know it, but for what happened here, that would have been spawned there. But it's got an independent existence now, and so there's a lot of pressure on us to come through with the early transition to DIFCA, so that the media center can survive.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
Rupert, any?
I just want to reinforce the point that I think that when we get the agenda next time around, that it needs to be carefully laid out.
Yep. The
background and the pros and cons and the alternatives here, so that and with a clear recommendation as to where we're headed. Yeah. What you would like to, how you'd like to see us.
Okay, so the only thing I'll add, I happen to agree with a lot of what's said. The P side is very, very critical and very, very important, but we do go back, and E and G means an awful lot, and that's how we're going to get our, I agree with Larry, that's how we're going to get our councils. I'm not going to go back and say, I'll tell them that there's 15 people in the room and all love it and we can use it, we can do it, but what will get everybody to say this is a great idea, geez, we're rebuilding sewers, let's keep the media center going too, is that it's the E and the G. So just be sensitive to that. I know Bruce is always very sensitive to that, and that's what you need to have come through in your statements. On the funding side, you gotta remember also, this is a young entity. It is a startup, and DIVCA didn't exist. The Nunez bill was still going through. It wasn't there. So this was nothing any of us ever thought about, because we were living in a different world. This bill didn't exist. There was a way to keep this thing alive. So now, I'm going back to my calendar and saying, well, all those things that I told you about, they didn't pan out. And we've got this, and that's not a bad thing, but you just need to be sensitive to that. And I know nothing ever moves. So my wife, take out the garbage, and you take out the garbage, clear the table. But the public side, it just doesn't work like that. We only meet twice a month with our councils. We can't talk with our council members outside of it. It's against the law. There's agendas that get set. you know, we've got all the, things just take a little bit longer. And then the other piece was just on Comcast I think we hit, and it's just, it wasn't so much weighing whether they do it or not, but it's just like, what do we lose, potentially lose here. So, good discussion. We have a lot of work to do. Carla, Suki, Barbara, me, Mark, to get a good, solid, you know, staff report and recommendation. So we just gotta, you know, the 5 of us should hop on a phone call probably soon. You know, just a 30-minute phone call, how we're gonna get this done. And everybody, I assume, is still comfortable with that process. Nothing's changed, right? Okay, good. Thank you all very much. Let's move on to item H, which is, again, this is such an important issue, and this is on our work plan, something we want to bring to a head. And I really, on the front end, want to thank the supervisor and Larry also from Fairfax for stepping up. And this has been something that has been worked on, and I read it and said, this, you know, you know, great, we got a path and we're putting a lot of work into it. So this is the low-income discount. Are you going to give a staff report, or should we just turn it over to them?
I can just turn it over.
I kind of feel like just turn it over. And are you both doing it?
I think we'll let Larry kick it off.
Okay.
I can just say that he's worked on this for so many years, and it just happened that when we got together and said, now, let's see how we can get it done, that some things fell into place, like the Marin housing, like CMC. You go ahead.
Okay.
You did a great job, I thought.
Yeah, I did too.
So, the Marin Telecommunications Agency, probably around, how many years old is it? 20 years old?
Oh, 1997, so 14.
14 years old. And has always provided a low income and disabled discount, always. And even before there was an MTA, the predecessors always provided low income and disabled discounts to low income. It's low income elderly, so it's not just low income, it's seniors and disabled, it's low income seniors and disabled, always. The oldest agreement I was able to find had a 75% discount off the basic cable rate. And slowly but surely over the years, that was nibbled away by the cable companies as cable became a bigger and bigger business and became more and more cost conscious. They actually went after the low income elderly and disabled discounts and reduced it. And in our final franchise before the new Comcast franchise 5 years ago, it was reduced to 20%. So you could see a gradual diminution of that benefit to our subscribers. And all of these subscribers that we're benefiting are taxpayers and are helping to pay for the rights of way over which the cable is strung. So all of them help pay for the rights of way that we're getting compensated for. So everybody's a stakeholder, including the people that benefit under this program. And I think that's a very important concept to understand. Everybody's contributing, even the people that are getting the benefit. And the people that are getting the benefit, of course, are subscribers. And a lot of these subscribers rely more heavily on cable TV than other people because of a lack of mobility and a lack of resources. So it's an even more important utility for the segment of our community that we're trying to benefit with this program. And in our last franchise agreement, which, as I discussed earlier, I was a party to that negotiation, Comcast held firm against renewing it whatsoever. They wanted, they didn't want to lose that income. And this was one of the hardest fought issues that we had with Comcast because of our historic commitment to it. And finally, at the end of the day, because we were looking at a terrain that was shifting, it was like there were tectonic shifts occurring right at the same time that we were approaching the end of our franchise negotiations. We knew things were changing. The ground was changing under us as we negotiated that agreement. So we were racing to get that agreement signed, to get the money to start this facility and also to fund INET. I mean, that franchise, the franchise agreement also put $1 million in to an internet backbone for Marin County. And we were very concerned about losing the whole enchilada before we signed it, but we made the finish line and we got the money. And the compromise that was made and that I agreed to was that the Comcast would continue to discount, to provide the discount to currently eligible subscribers, but that was it. The door was shut. And so for the last 5 years, you've got a growing demographic of people that are qualified, whether they've become disabled, whether disabled folks have moved into our community who would be eligible, but because they weren't a subscriber under the old agreement, they don't get the discount. They've been shut out. And we know with the economic times that we're in, pensions are shrinking, resources are shrinking, but the need increases. And so what this plan does is it basically creates a local mechanism to continue it. And the way we did it is we brought in, through Judy's office, Marin Housing. Now previously, Marin Housing was getting a bulk rate discount that Suki Senate handled. And that was for 600 tenants in the Marin Housing Authority. So that's Marin City and then 300 tenants scattered around Marin County. That was also eliminated by Comcast. So you've got another cohort of people that were eliminated from a benefit. And so what really makes this program work is Marin Housing stepping up and saying, we'll administer it for you. When we do our yearly qualification interview, we'll ask folks, you know, are you a subscriber? Are you on SSI, SSDI? Show us proof, show us your cable bill, and we'll give them a one-time stipend in the same approximate amount as they would get discounted over the course of a year. It's about $40 a year. Not a lot of money. It's a bag of groceries. It's a benefit to people, and it's creating an inclusion for people. For example, in Marin Housing, that have lost any benefit, any access benefit to cable television. And so that's what makes it work, is Marin Housing, and then also the Community Media Center has stepped up and said, we'll help administer it for you for the folks outside of Marin Housing, and also the Marin Center for Independent Living. So it's a very expedited qualification procedure. It's a very expedited payment procedure, and it'll fill the gap. It'll fill the gap. And if we do go to DIVCA, it'll fill the gap that may be created with the end of the discount that we've got through Comcast. The entire cost of the program, maybe $20,000 a year, and we can cap it to make sure that it doesn't go above it. It's currently costing the franchise, I think, about $12,500 a year. I would anticipate it might expand a little bit. We really don't know what the demographic need is at this point. We don't think there's been an exponential increase in the numbers, but a very, very modest price for the franchise to fulfill its mission.
And I would add that just that the county as a whole has an overarching goal of sustainability. And under that, there are the 3 E's: economy, environment, and social equity. And the economy, one of the ways this fits into that goal is we want to promote targeted industries to be healthy, to increase here in Marin County. And one of those targeted industries is digital arts, like we see here. And that's a very valid thing that we're doing. The people that learn here will go out Maybe they'll bring another business in to replace just the image movers that's moving out of Hamilton. The second one is environment. And we all know how green Marin is and how committed to reducing greenhouse gases, to making this county more sustainable. By providing for the seniors, for the low income, to be able to stay at home, to be healthy, to have mental health by having entertainment, we're adding to the environment so that they're not going to the hospital, so that they're not taking cars somewhere. I see that as a plus. And certainly the most obvious one is the goal of social equity. We are providing for those who don't have a voice, who want to come to the Marin housing meetings saying Comcast is not paying my cable rate, and I can't watch it, and I have no contact, I can't leave the house. So I think it's incumbent, I want to think that I serve on a board that really addresses that problem, that has a voice for those who don't have a voice, especially when it's a modest amount. I think we could do this for a trial period for a year. If it looked like it wasn't working, if it looked like we had to make some measures to compensate, fine. But I would just urge us to try this for a year for those people that really need it and who have been neglected and haven't had it. And now that we've had this windfall of the Marin Housing Authority saying, we'll administer this for you, give us a check, we'll take care of it for what, and and Michael too. So I think it's like all of a sudden everything is converging.
Did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think they did it.
Okay, questions? So it's typical, let's ask questions for the staff report. Go ahead.
No question.
Any questions on the staff report?
So the financial impact is $20,000.
Well, that's something we can discuss. I mean, I think the current financial impact is about $12,500, and that was what was discussed before, was we put a cap on. I think that's something that they're looking for some direction on. We don't know yet, but we don't. The current one, based on the grandfathered folks, on a 20% discount from the base rate, is $12,500, roughly.
Right. Currently. And so what this program would do is it would cover the people that have come in to become subscribers who are eligible, who are not currently getting a discount. So it's probably less than the current amount of
subscribers. Because these guys still get covered as the grandfather.
Exactly.
They are grandfathered.
And how many did Dan say? I mean, they're not that many.
There's 600
600
tenants.
is what I thought, yeah.
Now, how many of them are cable television subscribers? I don't know. How many of that group would qualify? I don't know.
So the 600 is, the 20,000 is the top level of counting everybody doing it, which is maybe others are covered, maybe they're not, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And okay. Other questions for staff report?
So the 20,000, that's reimbursement. That money is money that would go back to the qualified people and is separate and distinct from any cost of administering the program?
Yes, and I don't think there would be any administrative
There's
costs.
no administrative.
There's no administrative.
It would be de minimis. All it would really be would be there would be some staff time.
Right.
So we would be reimbursing our partner agencies for payments, and we would be keeping track of the tenants to make sure, or the subscribers, to make sure there's no duplications.
Okay.
So pretty minimal.
All right. So
but to your point, well, go ahead. Because you did bring something. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that's just what I was asking about is and I guess what I'm gathering is that in terms of administration, the cost of actually doing the program, the human time, the accounting time, that kind of stuff, that's not going to be an expense.
It will be
or very, very
a minimal
small
expense.
So because what my concern was whether or not the benefit of what was going to be provided was going to be outweighed by the cost of actually
Right,
providing
right.
the service.
And so the way we circumvented that problem is by partnering with Marin Housing Authority and with the Community Media Center and with the Marin Center for Independent Living, all of which have volunteered to be our partners and to do the administration for us. At no charge, at no fee.
And to your other point, though, to the extent we switched to DIVCA, the side letter did have the reimbursement for the grandfathered folks, right? That is, so that you could end up, now I see where you were going, I apologize, but we could end up having all $20,000 or 20,000 less 12 and a half, even if we switch to DIVCA, because we don't know how Comcast, that's one of those things where you don't know how Comcast, my guess is they'd pull it, they'd say, well, fine, you're going to DIVCA,
They
you're going
might.
to DIVCA, you don't.
Yeah, it's gone.
They might.
So that's
But-
why, that's, and
Yes.
it
But
could be as high as.
it could be, but if we go to DIVCA, then we've got a program in place to keep that benefit going. So
Would be
real,
funding source. Yeah.
and an administrative means to keep it going.
Right.
So it's, again, it's sort of offsetting any potential loss by switching to DIVCA, because we'll keep that going with this program.
Because the money, through the extra money.
Well, and also we will have set up a means to do it.
Yeah, I understand the administrative part, but where you were going on the funding source too, you were also saying we'd have more money. We'd also have
Well, we will have more money with DIVCA. We would garner for our total agency another $600,000 a year.
Right.
So it's going to go to a different place, but.
So I
Your
have a
questions?
question.
Yeah,
Yes, just one actually. So the cities would be paying this, or the 20,000, or does this come out of the 3 million that we have for an operating budget?
Okay, the agency receives about $3 million a year in total franchise fees. And that's distributed out to each of our towns and cities according to the percentage of subscribers that reside within our jurisdiction.
Okay.
So right now, the low-income discount is reducing our potential franchise fees for all of us by about $12,000.
Plus the operating budget for this agency, so you've got the budgets in there, it's a $350,000 budget. So if you add 20,000 on this, so what we do is we take from the second quarterly fees.
Yes.
So when the quarterly fees, the franchise fees get paid on a quarterly basis, on the second round comes in, we take the entire operating budget out, because all the money flows through here. So in effect, all of our towns on a pro rata basis, as Larry pointed out, based on your subscribers, get a little bit less. If this agency didn't exist, there'd be $350,000 extra going to each of the towns. Of course, if this agency didn't exist, we would be here, and neither would they. That's the whole.
Right. Oh, okay.
And frankly, that extra money that Larry was just, that doesn't go right. I mean, it comes through here, and we would then, as a board, also decide what we give money would be allocated.
I see. Okay.
I can place that in perspective for Sausalito. What, 3.1 million, right, Barbara, this year anticipated revenue? Okay, you got a 4.96 share, so that comes out to about 154,000. So if we took 20,000 out of it, Sausalito's would be reduced by about $1,000.
I see. Okay. I thought we would be paying for.
Yeah.
You're just getting less.
Just getting less.
It would be
Okay.
a
Sure.
slight reduction,
Yes.
very slight reduction.
Okay.
Thanks for figuring that out, Larry. Take it with us wherever we go.
Fantastic.
Any other
I was
cities
going to
need
say
this
something. No. Any other questions? Mark, do you have a question? No question.
I've got one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I have a scope question in terms of who are the people that would be entitled? Is it because when I read the staff report, I was a little bit confused whether it was limited to SSI and SGI people only, or whether it also would include people over the age of 65. And it seems like the latter, people over the age of 65, that's not intended to be within the scope of this, is it?
in
I'll
my.
take it.
Well, I know, I mean, that demographic's increasing dramatically, so.
There's a qualifier, which is over 65 in Medi-Cal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's low income elderly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions on the staff report? All right, let's close this part, open up the public hearing. Anybody from the public want to speak on this? Michael?
Yeah, just briefly, I mean, I met with Judy and Larry about this, and, you know, I mean, this is something that's central to our mission too. We provide, you know, discounts on memberships and trainings for low-income and seniors. I mean, we don't turn people away. We find, you know, we find a way that they can work and receive the training. Equally important, low-income seniors, disabled, you know, they watch the channels probably more than anyone else.
Right.
They're the ones that take advantage of the educational channel and get the lifelong learning, you know, UCTV and other programs. They actually watch the council meetings.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's important to us, and then, you know, for emergency preparedness and disaster, you know, preparedness, you know, those channels are going to, you know, to be crucial. So, we're building an audience as well. In terms of the administration, I mean, my only caution, which I wrote to you, is just getting a clear grasp on the numbers, you know,
right.
To make sure we're not opening up, you know, is it a couple hundred or is it a couple thousand?
Right.
Because that's going to really affect our ability to administer this. You know, we are understaffed, so this is something that, you know, we do need some help, you know, staffing. If it's minor and manageable, we can, you know, work through it, but if it turns into thousands of people, we just want to be prepared. I think you do too.
Yeah.
So we're happy to work with you on it.
Great, thank you. Anybody else in the public? I'm going to close it. Bruce?
I just want to make it very brief. One of my big disappointments when the franchise was signed was exactly that Comcast was limiting, and they're taking from people who are so poor and who are so dependent for their community connection on television. And it's you know, it was really a painful thing to see. So I'm glad to hear that the agency wants to do something about that. I think Michael's comment about the administrative costs and your comments for it are relevant, need to be thought of, and Larry, you thought this through, and so have you. So those are things that need to be managed, and the accountability, again, is important. But Michael also touched on another aspect. You know, in Hurricane Katrina, there were a lot of people left behind who just didn't get the message. And so, you know, God forbid we should have such a thing happen here, but at times like that, you can't just fix it. You have to have the system in place to be able to reach those people. And you know, I don't know whether we can save them or not or what it is, but I just think that communication with that population of handicapped people who maybe can't get out is so important. I had a relative who had polio, and you know, that's a kind of a thing that most of us don't think about, but in a microsecond it can become very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Anybody else from the public? I'm going to close the public hearing and bring this back to the board for some discussion and direction if we get there. Mark?
I'd like to move approval with a cap of 20,000.
You want to, just so I get clarification, are you talking about, I think you're recommending a trial period of, what, like a year or something?
Yeah.
1 year trial period, cap at 20,000.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I happen to agree with you. I'll just jump in there. I like that one. That's what I was going to tell. Who's next? Larry?
I'll second that. I'm good with that too.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
So we got a motion, we got a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Brilliant.
Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries unanimously. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for your very hard work. Yeah, good job, Larry.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Barbara and Judy. Thank you very much. Yep, thank you very, very much. Well presented. Okay, so with that, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion second, no opposition. We're done. Thank you, everybody.